Thank you so much, and I'm really happy to be here. My name is Šarūnė, and what Andre has really right of, you could wake me up in the middle of the night and I could talk about automations. I think it's really, really interesting topic. It's the topic that it's very fashionable, especially at the moment when we talk agents and all of the discussion. So agents versus automation, traditional automation. Let's see how it's happening. So the topic that we have chosen is automation without chaos. And I was thinking how to start with it, because the things that I've noticed said about, AI, agents, is it taking over, is it not taking over, are they working together, are they working against each other? I think there are a lot of opinions on what's the future. And for me, I remembered one of the saying. It's not about trying to avoid the storm or the chaos. It's about learning to navigate in it. And this is exactly what we're trying to do. So how are we trying to navigate in this world of automation? Let's go to the topic. And maybe briefly, my name is Šarūnė, I already said it, but been with the Danske Bank almost 11 years. Prior to that, actually SEB, 8 years, so almost 20 years in financial industry, Nordic financial banks, and my passion has always been optimization, automation, and everything what we can do for the people to make sure that their life become easier. And I always like to start with numbers. The numbers that you see is the footprint of our tribe. So Intelligent Automation Tribe, we're working with automation of the tasks or mirroring employees' actions. And we've been doing it for quite some time. And the numbers that we have and the footprint that we have in the bank is pretty significant. So at the moment we have, and these numbers are from yesterday, we have 368 solutions running in the bank, and they are performing work for 427 FTEs, or equivalents to that. It's always a question, if you look at the 20,000 employees that are working in Danske Bank, is 427 a significant number? I think we can do better, but I think it's definitely a very good start. What I want to emphasize on is the solutions with embedded AI, and I apologize for sometimes naming on, you'll see embedded AI, hyper automation. It's some of the namings we created ourselves because the market doesn't know how to call these solutions, these type of solutions yet. I personally think it's an agent, but it's a discussion always. But we already have 11 solutions that are calling in one way or another LLMs. The platforms that we're using, UiPath, I don't know how many of you are working in UiPath? One hand only? Not my team. I know you. Okay, interesting. What are you working with? Blue Prism? Power? No? Okay. UiPath is our main platform that we're working with, and then of course we do some of the solutions in Python. So we have segregated that UiPath is our main platform for scheduled automations that run in the batches, that run on a particular schedule, and then if you need on-demand or desktop automations, we're using Python because this is how we figure out works best for us. So the evolution of automation in Danske Bank. I would say we're pretty experienced. We started with RPAs in 2016. So it's almost 10 years ago. And at that time, we started with a very simple mirroring of employee steps, working on user interface, working only with scheduled automations. And unfortunately, even 10 years have passed. Many, even colleagues sometimes, when they talk and when they hear automation or RPA, they think about how it was in 2016. During that time, during 10 years, all of the platforms have evolved, including our ways of working have evolved. And as I said, as you see here, so we started in 2016 with RPAs, or robotic process automation, on-schedule automation. We added auto-hit keys, or what we converted later to Python, so on-demand automations. We added citizen development in 2022, or you can read the numbers, where we opened up part of our platform to all of the employees or anyone in the bank who could use and learn the technology. We call it hyper-automation. I know that probably many of you could have opinion. Is it the right naming? I don't know. But this is something that we created at the moment, and we said when we call it hyper-automation, we know what we call. But hyper-automation, we call this more smart automations that we have. So we went from automating the steps to process logic. We went from automating simple, very simple processes to automating complex processes, as long as they have a very clear decision tree. Automations now, with all of the platforms, despite what you're using, we try to avoid user interface, if it's possible. If there are any other ways of doing it, we will do another way. If there's no other way of doing it, we will go on user interface. And this is something, I think this is the mindset for everyone that needs to be changed. And Hyper comes in with, we start to embed AI components in our solutions. So there is quite a lot of things that we're doing. So where's the chaos? Chaos is what we call shadow IT. What is shadow IT? Can anyone tell me? What do you think? What is shadow IT in your organizations? Do you have this kind of term? Yeah? Legacy? Anyone else? Yes, thank you. And Andre, if you can give this gentleman a small present. A bit unexpected, right? But it's exactly what we are referring to. Shadow IT, when we work with official platforms, we have documentation, we have tracking, we have the knowledge on what is happening, where it's happening. But there are situations where we still have solutions in the company that are not documented, not known, and very often, it's a small script or something that's done locally in the team, and then the person goes to retirement or leaves the bank, and everyone is crying what to do. So it's a bit this picture, what I tried to show, that we have enterprise systems. Don't mind exactly the namings. It's not necessarily representing Danske Bank, but we have enterprise systems that are governed. We have automation platforms that are governed, but then there is always something that's falling in between. That operations are performing certain tasks, and neither enterprise systems or automation platforms is catering for their needs, so they create something that we put in what we call in shadow IT, and what we call chaos that we're trying to solve, and Mantas will talk about it, because we thought we had control, and then it became a bit worse. And the worst became with new technologies and Gen AI technology. Because suddenly, if before you needed to have some kind of understanding or minimum knowledge to build a script, now you can prompt and ask ChatGPT to write you a code. And then it's way easier to put it in production. And then nobody knows that it's there. So how we're not solving fully the chaos, but Mantas will talk about how we're navigating in the chaos. So that was it from me. Mantas, please walk us through.
So thank you, Šarūnė, for a great introduction to the topic. My name is Mantas. It's definitely not stressful standing in front of you, but I'll try my best to cover this interesting topic. So challenges that we face when having shadow IT somewhere creeping behind the scenes, behind our IT infrastructure and solutions, is that we don't know where they are. They are not registered. They are not visible in any way, shape, or form for us, and we need to somehow figure it out how critical they are for business. There is no documentation for each of those solutions, or there is minimal documentation that we can follow, which also complicates things when we want to automate and replace those solutions, because we are dependent on key people who are great SMEs, but at the same time, they are not owning up the solution, and it's very tricky then to find them. And given that it's an unknown dependency, it creates an operational risk both from the IT perspective but also from business perspective, because if you embed a shadow IT solution very deeply in your business processes, then it's very hard to root out for the IT operations. So what is our approach? During 10 years of automating business processes, we managed to understand that innovation must scale together with control and resilience, but it also needs to be visible to the employees and understandable, so they could know how to build those solutions in a simple manner, but also following the minimum amount of policies and governance standards. Also, we built an ownership structure, how those solutions needs to be registered, and one of the persons here attending said CMDB. So yes, we register our solutions in ServiceNow to see their life cycle and link them to other downstream and upstream dependencies. Also, some of those solutions are owned by our area, but some of those solutions are owned by the actual tribes, so they know that there is an automation on their business processes and they can gradually migrate to a better solution. Centralized practices, so we have deployment models of the automations and centralized development stream where specific teams cover specific domains, which enables efficient automation initiatives and bringing more benefit to the organization or group. And the main thing that helps us do it is transparency. Information is the key to find any solution and correlate it with the business processes, trying to get the key points that would help us identify areas where we need to focus when building automations, and also where when business comes to us, we can help them also see exactly what kind of things they need to focus on and automate. As I mentioned, we matured, and previously, when we started only with RPAs, we didn't have our tribe architecture, system architecture landscape, and so on. But during many years of developing solutions, building standards, and creating platforms ourselves, we managed to come to this rough shape. I'm not also specifically pointing out all the details, bear with me. We cannot share all the secrets here, but these are the main points that I would like to talk about. So let's start from the top, is Windows workstations, where user actually works, and the user can either use the attended automation that could be built with UiPath, as both Studio X developers or citizen developers can build automation for themselves. Also, our tribe creates attended automations which are more complex to them, and then they can use UiPath. But it seems that UiPath sometimes might not cover the needs that we have, is efficient scaling and also putting shadow ITs from ungoverned structure to governed structure. That's why we have platforms below. UiPath is the key platform having its own capabilities, and Danske Script platform is the one where we consolidate all of our scripts and Python scripts, AutoHotkey scripts, Excel macros in a governed manner, where we also can ensure authorizations, deployment, efficient deployment models, and tracking of those automations, being able to show the benefit in the tool called Digimate, which is on the right side of the screen. The Digimate is our analytical, operational, and strategic platform containing a lot of information gathered from both of these platforms. And on the left side, there is an RPA site that is used for the developers and some citizen developers to jumpstart their development journey. Also, the website helps us monitor our infrastructure activities and other information that technically could be found in the platforms themselves, but we want to limit the access to those and also just show the relevant things to the relevant people. And as mentioned, we also build unattended automations that are working in Windows virtual desktop interfaces. But this, our platforms cannot function without the enabling platforms that run behind the scenes and lets us build everything both efficiently and securely. So a little recap. I mentioned the challenges that we have. So it's lack of visibility, lack of documentation. We can't know all the dependencies, having clear vision of them. We don't know the owners sometimes of those shadow ITs, and it's sometimes very hard to retain that knowledge in the organization. That's why we have the script platform that I mentioned in the architecture picture, which holds or solves all of these issues for us. We have a centralized solution where we can start the scripts, or a user can start a script in one environment, easily find everything that we already own, and if a person has access rights and authorizations to run those scripts, it's fine to do so. We standardize deployment of these scripts, so a person does not need to know when there is an update and ask a colleague to send him a script or additional dependencies that require to run those scripts. Script launcher solves everything to that employee. We reduce the key person risks because we are owning the solutions and maintaining them, which then it's easier when we have a centralized team responsible for that and don't need to look who is owning what and who can maintain the solution. And of course, it ends up with improving the supportability of each solution, that it's easier to maintain for the organization. It's easier to onboard any new colleagues because we can scale those automations in different areas if we need to. And of course, we can create handover information and just use it centrally. So now we'll show a demo of our Danske Script solution. So as you can see, a user needs to provide the credentials because they are used in other areas of the automation. Some automations tend to use it to call the APIs and other things behind the scenes. That's why we need a user identity. So as you can see, this is a small tool that you can run on your machine and select the automation that you want to run. While our automations are pretty standardized, we tend to have at least a minimal user interface for people to follow the progress of whatever task they do have. That also kind of makes it easier, and well, employees have better user experience. What happens when we have a script and we don't have the access rights to do it? Well, as I mentioned, if we don't have a script, the script launcher downloads all the dependencies required to run it, and the user does not need to install some Python dependencies and other things because it's done for him or her. And if we want to run the automation without a proper identity, we tend to get some errors indicating what you need to do in order to be able to run this software. So how it runs behind the scenes. In a dashed line, you can see all our script platform dependencies and communication patterns. So the script launcher communicates with our Danske Scripts API, which sends the information if a script is ran by a user, sending the data regarding the run execution and some general information that we store. Other information regarding the script versions and so on are stored in the MS SQL database, where we pull the data when a script launcher is launched to verify whether a version has changed or not. And then, depending on that, we we download all the dependencies required from the Artifactory. If we need additional security, a user FT rights are checked in the ADFS, getting the GVT token, and then asking the HashiCorp credential store to get necessary secrets to call the APIs and so on. And how do we see the thing? So this is one flavor of the interface that our DevOps they tend to use when they want to understand the script usage and other metrics. So as you can see, we can tailor it to our needs if we want to, but DevOps has their way of doing things. So one of the key metrics is how many launches were done, how many distinct users we have in a given time frame, what are the completed failed case ratio there is. We can track each automation failed and completed cases if we want to. We can track each unique user and how many times the user started the script. And at the bottom, we can see the usage of our platform behind the scenes. And as you can see, the trend is slowly or gradually going down. But it's the thing that we improve our platforms, and behind the scenes, we try to limit the resource usage as much as possible. That's why the API usage trend gone down from 2025 to now. Now let's move on to another tool that we have, and it's the main brain behind the scenes that allows us to do or take key decisions when building the automations. It consolidates a lot of data into one platform where we can dig deep, drill down, and see the effort tracking for each automation, how many hours were used up to develop these automations, what is the resource investment, and the FTE benefit created, predicted versus the actual, because first we don't know how much we might save, but after some time we can compare those numbers and then do also some investigations. Why did we not achieve what we thought that we will achieve? The Digimate allows us also to report errors to the key stakeholders that owns the automations, because it's also accessible by the solution owners, so business SMEs, tribe owners, and other people that wants to know exactly how we operate. And of course, we have our full portfolio view, being able to report or do any kind of the report that we are asked. So how does it work? Let's see. As I mentioned, we have an RPA site that consolidates and helps jumpstart our RPA journey, but it also contains some useful links to navigate in different systems that we tend to use during our development process. Also, we can download software and do other things. But now we are navigating to the Digimate, where we'll see what it's capable of. So we are in the Digimate domain now, where we see the analytical, operational, and statistical knowledge that we have. Oh my God, it's barely visible. The Digimate tool itself enables users to filter the automations according to their needs, so they can select a specific process that they own, select specific time frame to see all the sessions that ran during that time frame, and depending on that date, they can select and see how the automation performed. As you can see in the left, there are a bunch of successes, but sometimes systems fail and a few failures. So when we dig deep into a specific session, we can see the completed cases, but also if we dig deep into the failed sessions, we can see exact errors, why the session failed and what kind of system broke down. That also helps us, but also helps the business to understand why something didn't work without giving them access to the platforms. Automation cases overview also gives the same details, and we dig down now into the metrics that are used to navigate our automation KPIs. So Digimate also has the explanations for each of those metrics. I won't go into the detail because I cannot see anything. But as you can see, the main topic is that we can select a lot of different views for each automation that business has, and they can filter it in many different ways. Each automation has its own identity, RPA number, that's used in Jira, Confluence, ServiceNow, and so on, for us to correlate all the automations, and they are grouped by either RPA or script. Then also Digimate enables us to do biannual reviews for each automation, so developers are assigned a specific subset of automations to review and say whether or not they performed according to our standards. And of course, as mentioned, we need to track the development progress and how long it takes for the teams to work on specific features or specific automation solutions, how long it took for them to develop something, and how much did it cost. Probably it's not shown here, but we able to get it. So what Digimate also contains, it contains a lot of information for business to understand what we do, what we are as a tribe. They can also create a request for us to automate more solutions for them by navigating through links to Solve IT, where they get a form to enter the base information needed, and that information is then fed to our business analysts so they could dig deep and check what they can help automate. And of course, how can we run without feedback? We also need to improve. Someone might want additional feature, and this is the place to give the feedback and request some new things in Digimate if it's not enough. So lessons learned. The thing is that most issues does not come from the technical perspective. It comes from the operational risks that are created by the tools that are created by the business without technical knowledge. Of course, a lot of people now can use GenAI and so on, but it's still creating a risk that we cannot easily contain, and we try to, but that's the problem. And another problem is that we need that visibility. Without it, we cannot provide good outcomes and bring benefits to the group without breaking something behind. And of course, organization is reliant on governance. If we don't follow standards, if we build everything in the shadows, we might end up with some operational issues where at the end of the day, we need to treat control as not a constraint, but also enabler and jumpstart to create automations. And of course, ownership sustains, which means that it's easier when we know everything and we can maintain those solutions ourselves. without, of course, focusing on short-term speed. We're focusing on the sustainability of those solutions and how we end up or trying to go from the chaos to control. We want to build sustainable, governed, and resilient automations. And those capabilities can only be achieved by governing everything early without employing too strict of a standards. Measuring everything, because this is the key component of making the correct decisions. Of course, the measurements needs to be pulled from many different sides, and it's hard to get everything correct in the first go, but we need to improve this over time and standardize it to scale quickly and efficiently.